Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite movies. And today I'm gonna end off my list week 2010s with the last list. And it is going to be the top 80 best movies of the 2010s, in my personal opinion. But I already did the first part of the video where I talked about the honorable mentions and from number 80 to number 36. So feel free to check that video out. But now I'm going to talk about the top 35. And yeah, it is an incredibly difficult list to do because there are movies here that I really enjoy that didn't make it into the top 10. And, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I like this movie more, sometimes I like that movie more. So my opinions fluctuate. So, in order to form a solid list is nearly impossible. But I did it. At number 35, it is Dan Gilroy's Nightcrawler, which is a simplistic and somewhat slow and subtle, but very grim and thrilling and gripping movie about a sociopath who tries to get rich, get successful by sort of crossing moral lines because he wants to stage footage and give it to news report channels. And so it's a pretty messed up movie, and we get some insanely amazing performances from Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed. And at number 34, you may be surprised to hear this, but it is actually the Lego Movie. Yes. On the surface, it may seem like a very dumb, immature, mindless movie, but actually, it is an incredibly clever and intelligent comment on cliches and tropes of mainstream generic Hollywood movies, blockbusters, and such. And they sort of do that. The movie's sort of written in a way it pokes fun at those cliches and at those tropes and at those trends as well. And at the same time, the movie is fun. It is really well animated. Chris Pratt as the main guy in this movie, actually pretty great voice acting, I have to say. And overall, it's just such a fun movie that both kids can enjoy and adults can enjoy as well, but in a different way. You know what I mean. And then at number 33, I am giving it to La La Land by Damien Chazelle, which is a very colorful and beautiful and gorgeous movie about falling in love and trying to make a living in Hollywood, LA, the land of the dreams. And it is a musical movie because Damien Chazelle, he's a really musical guy, and the cinematography here is gorgeous. The color schemes here, and they don't cheat it with just a bunch of colorful lights. The dance numbers and the songs on this movie are actually catchy, they're enjoyable, they're pleasant, the editing is great. Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone have a lot of chemistry in this movie, and overall I just really enjoy the movie, and the ending is very thought-provoking in my opinion. And then at number 32, it is a special one because it is Her by Spike Jonze. And Her is a movie that is set in the utopian future, not dystopian, utopian future, featuring Joaquin Phoenix having a fake girlfriend, an AI robot girlfriend voiced by Scarlett Johansson. And it is an intelligent movie, but also more importantly, an emotional movie about the nature of love and affection. And it's sort of written in a way, it makes us realize how much real love matters. And even though real love is way more difficult than, robot love, but it is worth it because it is real, it is human. And this movie just exhibits that full beauty, and it's powerful, it's impactful. And then at number 31, I'm giving it to another David Fincher movie, Gone Girl. This time it is adapted from Gone Girl, and it is about Ben Affleck's wife, gone missing, and Ben Affleck has no idea where she is. And people start to think, oh, maybe Ben Affleck killed her. But the plot thickens, the story slowly builds, and it has multiple twists and turns. It is really well written, and it is a kind of murder mystery that is unlike any other, in that it is, in a way, it focuses on Ben Affleck's character, the husband, rather than the detectives, the police officers, because it is more about the relationship and the mentality between the husband and the wife, rather than, the clues and all that, even though those things are in the movie, and I just really appreciate that. It is a really unique movie that I really enjoy. And then at number 30, I am giving it to Noah Baumbach's Marriage Story, which is also a movie about relationships, broken relationships, about a divorce. Marriage Story is about a divorce, but it is one of the most wholesome, most emotional, and realistic movies about a relationship I have ever seen in a movie before. Maybe I'll enjoy it more if I'm married. Of course, I'm not. But it's just a really beautiful movie that is emotional, impactful. The dialogues, the way they're written, is so realistic, because there are moments here when the words really cut, they really punch. But then there are moments here where it's rather goofy, and it's just so realistic and grounded, and I love it. And the performances by Adam Driver and ScarJo are breathtaking. And at number 29, it is the latest Joker movie, and this movie had taken the world by storm. It is all the rage nowadays because, yes, it is an edgy movie, but I think more importantly, it is not the kind of movie that you would expect from the DC universe, because Joker is one of the, if not the most iconic DC villain, and people going into the movie would think, hey, maybe it's going to be an action thriller where we focus on the craziness of Joker. But actually, this is a very dark and grim and depressing character study of how Arthur became the Joker, and the transition from Arthur, the innocent, weak Arthur, to the menacing, crazy, chaotic Joker is pretty magnificent, and it is reasonably great. Not only that, I think the music is great, the cinematography is really unique, the color palettes are amazing, and Robert De Niro's in this movie, and he's great. Joaquin Phoenix really deserves an Oscar for this. I hope that he wins. Adam Driver should win too, though. And then at number 28, it is Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve, once again. And this is also a detective crime murder mystery whodunit movie, except this is probably the darkest and most depressing one that I've ever named on this list, more than The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, in my opinion. The way Denis Villeneuve handles a murder mystery is slightly different than David Fincher, but he still takes it in a very unique way, and it is very enjoyable because even though this movie is grim, it is a slow burn, and a very torturous one at that. But there are actually multiple action-packed scenes in this movie where little climactic things happen. Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal are amazing in this movie. And then at number 27, I have to give it to Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom. You've probably been waiting for this. If you're a Wes Anderson fan, when is Wes Anderson's gonna show up on his list? Well, here you go, Moonrise Kingdom. And Wes Anderson has a very amazing track record of amazing movies that could be considered masterpiece and classics. And we have Moonrise Kingdom, which of course falls into the lane of the Wes Anderson idiosyncratic directing style, where everything's toyish, symmetrical, and everything's a little goofy and sort of dumb sometimes, but in a way it feels realistic and sincere and wholesome. And Moonrise Kingdom is it's a very cute movie about young love and being rebellious at a very young age. The performances are fantastic. the editing style, the directing style, the art style. Of course, they're all amazing, but I just really love the theme of young love being explored here, and there are a few iconic moments here that I really, really like. And of course, at number 26, I really don't know which movie is the better Wes Anderson movie, Moonrise Kingdom or The Grand Budapest Hotel. But after some thinking, I think I like Grand Budapest Hotel a little better because it has a stronger punch, because it is R rated, I think, and it is more violent, it is crazier, it is wilder, it has a bigger cast ensemble, and it just has a greater punch, and it is even funnier. Ralph Fiennes once again broke typecast, and everyone else in this movie are great. I mean, there are so many people in this movie. Bill Murray, I think Jeff Goldblum is in this movie, and Tilda Swinton, Saoirse Ronan, Edward Norton, Adrian Brody, the list goes on. Jason Schwartzman, maybe, I think he's in the movie. But yeah, the miniature sets, they're fantastic. The music, they're fantastic. The DP, I think, is Victoria Storaro, who is fantastic. And yeah, 25. Again, Denis Villeneuve, because he's a genius. Incendie, which is a Canadian-French movie about a brother and a sister whose mother had passed away, and before they could bury their mother, they needed to find their actual biological fathers and their secret brother. And they're not really Canadian French. They're actually Middle Eastern people, unspecified Middle Eastern country, and so they had to go all the way to the Middle East to sort of look back and trace back their ancestry line, and by doing that, they uncovered a lot of just dark, messed up, twisted secrets and events that took place in the past, and every time the brothers and sisters, they discover a new piece of clue, we also get flashbacks back to when their mother was at that point in the timeline, and we sort of see these two things happening at the same time in the past and in the present day, and it is so emotional, so impactful, so powerful, yet so messed up. Some really twisted, disgusting stuff happens in this movie, and it really messes you up. And that is my 25th spot, because at number 24, something more lighthearted, the MCU movies, and specifically my favorite two MCU movies, Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, which serves as a 6-hour-long two-parter to an epic ending to the first era of the MCU movies. And yes, while it is very lowbrow, it is very accessible, kind of cheap, I still really, really appreciate what Marvel had done. The writers obviously poured a lot of their effort and time writing and perfecting these characters, putting them all together, connecting all these points, and create 23, 24 movies that all somehow intertwine and connect to one another, with a lot of Easter eggs thrown back to the Stan Lee comics. And it is that amount of time and effort that I really appreciate. Of course, the visual effects are fun. The cast ensemble is fantastic. I mean, name a better person who can play Iron Man than Robert Downey Jr. Name a better person who can play Captain America than Chris Evans. I mean, yeah, they're just perfect for their roles. I don't think any of the actors or actresses here are miscast, and I guess I just really appreciate how culturally impactful the MCU movies are, and in years from now, in a couple decades from now, when the kids ask their parents, back in the days, what kind of movies are the most popular, we will always think about the Marvel movies in the first thought, and that just goes to show how powerful these movies are. And then at number 23, it is Shutter Island, by Martin Scorsese, which is a psychological thriller movie unlike any other, and it has multiple, not only one, but multiple iconic, mind-bending twists that are just crazy. It's on top of the world, beyond understanding. And to my surprise, the editing, the cinematography, they're not just some cheap generic filmmaking there. You can really tell that Martin Scorsese, after years of directing, really came up with a really specific style in filmmaking, and he really knows what he's doing. He's really owned his skills. And again, Leo DiCap, Mark Ruffalo's here, and Ben Kingsley, they're all fantastic. And it's just a riveting psychological thriller that doesn't beat around the bush. It just gets straight to the point, and I enjoy it a lot. And then at number 22, I am giving it to an oddball of a movie that's nominated for Best Picture but didn't get enough praise in my opinion, and that is The Favorite by Yorgos Lanthimos. Yes, now this is a period piece, but also at the same time a comedy about the late English royal dynasty. I guess dynasty wouldn't be the right word, but the late English royal life of Queen Anne, and the person used to be her favorite, now replaced by another person. So Rachel Weisz is replaced by Emma Stone as Olivia Colman, the Queen's favorite, and it is an incredibly fun movie. The cinematography, the art style, it's fantastic because it is just so eccentric. We get fisheye lens, crash pans that are just very entertaining. I love it when a director does this crazy camera movements, and the three actresses here, they're all really fantastic. There are some legitimately funny moments here, idiosyncratic moments, the weird dancing in the movie, the blindfolds, of course. They're all really fun, and overall, I just think this is one of the most underrated movies of the decade so far. So far, it's over. Ever. And at number 21, I really love this movie, but it just sucks that it's not in the top 20, and it is Scott Pilgrim versus the World by Edgar Wright, showing up once again. This has to be one of the most entertaining and fun movies I have ever watched, and I think anyone will ever watch in the 2010s, because this, while this is a very accessible movie that is based off of a graphic novel where Michael Cera has to, or Scott Pilgrim, played by Michael Cera, has to defeat 7 evil exes in order to date this one girl. And so we have this teenage fighting movie where we actually see multiple acts in the movie where he just fights the evil exes one by one. And it's fantastic. Every single fight is unique, is incredibly creative, and given that it is Edgar Wright, of course, we get some crazy, funny camera movements. The editing is funny. Edgar Wright is a master at visual comedy, and there are a lot of characters in this movie, but every single character are really well utilized. And again, Edgar Wright is this, deadpan British sarcastic humor person, but he suddenly made this movie, and I think in a way he's poking fun at the over-the-top, over-dramatic American humor, and he takes it in such a way it's just so friggin' entertaining and just so brilliant. There are multiple iconic moments in this movie, and I think it deserves number 20 because it deserves number 21 because at number 20 we have Mad Max Fury Road by George Miller, a comeback movie. And this is one of the best comeback movies, best reboot movies of all times, because Mad Max Fury Road is an adrenaline-pumping, incredibly intense, at-your-face, violent, visually stunning, and explosive action movies of the decade and perhaps of all times. The whole movie is this crazy, epic, complicated up and down car chase with a lot of different beats, a lot of different acts, a lot of different emotional moments, highs and lows. And but every single moment, it's just so intense, so crazy. The artistic style of this movie is so bold and at your face. It is actually very overwhelming, and it's just such a high quality movie that I just didn't expect from a reboot. And at number 19, I am giving it to Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri by Martin McDonagh. And this movie is similar to a Coen Brothers esque dark comedy movie, except this movie is just so solid because it doesn't feel like one character doing their own thing. It's this town, Ebbing, Missouri, and every single character has their own thing, has their own issues, has their own little character arc and redemption storylines, and they all do their own thing, and they all intertwine with one another, dealing with one big, complicated incident, and it sort of weaves into one another into so many different acts, so many different beats, and each one of them paying off so well and so uniquely. The dialogues are fantastic, but I think the moral of the story is what really makes this dark comedy great, because anger begets anger. So put that anger away and start thinking rationally. And I just really love that message in the movie. And also learn to forgive. And at number 18, it is The Revenant by Alejandro González Iñárritu. So, The Revenant is a movie where Leo DiCaprio in the snow as this wild wilderness person during the the times before Wild West, a dark times during the history of the USA, when the natives are being hunted down by the Puritans. So we have this story where it's this 1-to-1, man versus nature, and nature being depicted in this movie is beautiful. It is humbling. It is so powerful and just towering over humanity. You really feel fragile and weak in this movie. And this is also a revenge movie that is very personal and twisted, but even though that is the case, I think ultimately this movie is about man versus nature, man versus the wild. And the long takes in this movie, the production of this movie is so high quality, and the fact that Alejandro made this movie like a year after Birdman is just crazy. And then at number 17, my personal favorite James Bond movie, and it's Skyfall by Sam Mendes. And Skyfall is, I think, when the label of James Bond movie sort of break a stereotype, because Skyfall shows a really messed up, a really broken, and a really left alone James Bond, where he's beaten up, he failed many things, he's a disappointment, and he's in a lot of trouble. And the villain in this movie, played by Javier Bardem, is incredibly menacing, terrifying. Every scene where he's in, he just steals it. But then we have Daniel Craig, Judi Dench, Ralph Fiennes, the guy who plays Q. They're all fantastic in this movie. And the visuals in this movie, Roger Deakins as the DP once again, and the visuals are just so mesmerizing, just so beautiful and futuristic in a way. But then we have some scenes in this movie that are just dark, that are just emotional and morbid. And it's James Bond movies that reaches such depth that I really, really enjoy. And I hope that No Time to Die can top that off with Rami Malek and Ana de Armas. And at number 16, I am giving it to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. And, yeah, call me biased, but I really grew up watching Harry Potter, the movies. I really grew up with Harry Potter. And when this movie came out, I literally saw it in the theaters, and I remembered how shocked, but at the same time how gratified I am after leaving the theaters. And I can't. I mean, Harry Potter's is one of the few rare movie franchises that are actually so consistent. Every single movie is pretty good, at least, and a few movies in that franchise are straight up great, fantastic, like Alfonso Cuarón's number 3, Prisoner of Azkaban. But this ending of the franchise is nearly perfect. Every single character really fulfilled their storyline. Of course, shout out to J.K. Rowling, even though Fantastic Beasts isn't really that great. But this ending is all Harry Potter heads can ask for. And there's also a certain maturity and darkness to the ending of the movie that to the franchise that I really love. I mean, we really grew up with Harry Potter, and at first it seems like a very fun, sort of innocent movie, but at the end it's really friggin' depressing. And it can be gross sometimes too. There's blood, there's gore, it's morbid in the artistic style, the production. I mean, you can really tell that everybody put a lot of thought and effort into it, and I just really appreciate that. And then we have the top 15. At number 15, it is Jagten, or The Hunt, by Thomas Vinterberg. And it is a Danish movie about Mads Mikkelsen, who is fantastic in this movie, got framed for sexually molesting a little girl. Yes, it's a very heavy movie. And here's the thing, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. He's innocent. And we already know that from the beginning of the movie. But throughout the entire movie, he just gets framed and people just bully him, hate him, beat him up. And it's so heartbreaking. And it's such a heavy movie, and emotional and impactful movie that just keeps sticking to my head because it's just so heavy. I mean, the editing and the cinematography of the movie isn't particularly spectacular or anything, but just the plot of the movie and Mads' acting in this movie is what I think really brought this movie to such emotional and impactful heights. And again, the ending is very thought-provoking, and I think this is one of the most underrated and overlooked movies of the decade. And at number 14, very underrated as well, and that is 127 Hours by Danny Boyle. Danny Boyle, super underrated as well. Slumdog Millionaire and Sunshine are movies by him. We have 127 Hours, which is a biographical movie about Aaron Ralston, which is a real-life story where he got stuck in the Grand Canyon, and his hand was stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and he was just stuck there for 127 hours, which is about a little bit over 5 days, I think. And he ran out of water, ran out of food, he was dying, dehydrating. It was hot, and when there's sunlight, cold, when there's no sunlight. And it was a very impressive survival story. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but I think everybody already knows what happens at the end. But it is such a creative movie that I really, really appreciate. I mean, for the most part of the movie, it's just one guy stuck in one position in one place. But still, every single moment in this movie feels really, really impressive, because when you lock yourself in such constraints, there are so much space for creativity. So when this movie is stuck at such a dead position, so much creativity is actually shown in this movie. There are hallucination scenes, there are musical scenes. There's one scene where Aaron Ralston just got insane and started faking a talk show, calling himself a loser. He started having flashbacks, going back in time, and there are just so many things going on in this movie, and the ending really pays it off. Amazing music as well. And then at number 13, Logan, James Mangold. Logan broke genres, because Logan is an X-Men movie, yes, but it doesn't feel like one. It feels like and it is an R-rated and gritty, violent, dark, depressing adult movie that just so happens to be in the X-Men universe. But it's really adult and really depressing. When violence happens here, they feel realistic. You know how Wolverine claws come out of there and he stabs people. And usually in X-Men movies, there are no blood there, but in this movie, there's blood there, just bleeding knuckles. And when people's heads are getting chopped off, you can really see just blood and gore coming out. Very violent, very gory, but it's also full of heart. It's about family. It's about having hope for the future, even though there really isn't hope. It's very depressing. Everything's breaking down. Everything's falling down. And everybody's dying and hurting. At number 12, we have Moonlight by Barry Jenkins. So this is my favorite movie of 2016, and for various reasons. But I think most important of all is that this is the most gorgeous character study of a movie I've ever seen. And also, usually when these big movies that involve black people get Oscar nominated, it involves poverty and, you know, black people, like, you know, street thugs and all that. But this movie, it sort of breaks that mold, because the music in this movie isn't shitty generic hip hop, but it is very intense orchestral strings. Barry Jenkins really has a knack for creating atmosphere in this movie, because there's a certain melancholy in this movie that just reaches so deep, and that just touches your heart in a way it's undescribable. It tells a story of a man, Chiron, when he's young and being bullied, when he's a teen who's still being bullied, but I guess starting to come to terms to who he is, realizing what his sexual orientation is, and then till when he grows up, who he ends up being, and what kind of person he decides to be. And the performances are all incredible, and especially for Mahershala Ali, who doesn't show up very often in this movie, but every time he's on screen, he's great. And it's just a very beautiful movie. And at number 11, I guess even more beautiful, it is The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson. And at first, I wasn't too baffled by this movie, even though I have to admit, this movie feels elegant. It's so grand. It's so mesmerizing. It's so hypnotizing. But the more I think about this movie, the more I love this movie. The more I love the style and the tone of this movie, because this movie feels kind of timeless. It feels kind of half existing. It feels mesmerizing, because this movie is about Freddie Quell and his journey into and out of religion, and what's speculated to be the start of Scientology. And we also get another man played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. Amazing performance. And Freddie Quell, Joaquin Phoenix, amazing performance as well. But we also get Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is a person who started the whole cult thing, but it doesn't feel like a cult. It feels like a team, a family at first. And his struggles being the leader, being the founder of that faith, of that religion. And it's also somewhat a friendship movie, a movie about understanding one another, because we have two very polarizing characters in this movie. But not only is this a very beautiful and deep character study, but also it is a very intelligent discussion on the nature of religion. And this movie doesn't paint religion in something crazy, delusional, but you actually feel like you may be getting into the religion. When the conversion scenes happen, when the interrogation scenes happen, you can really feel the emotional depth and power. And the ending is really weird, but it's also very poetic and poignant, and it just leaves such a strong impression in my mind. And at number 10, we're in the top 10, and we have Black Swan, Darren Aronofsky. And Black Swan is a rather simplistic but very twisted and messed up psychological horror movie about this girl who used to be very innocent, very pure, and very nice to everyone, who wants to be the swan in the Swan Lake dance. He's in a ballet school, and he needs to play the White Swan, and he plays that very well with grace, with precision. But she also needs to play the Black Swan, which is loose, which is careless and wild and unafraid. But she just quite can't get there because she's not that kind of person. So, but she's also very ruthless and relentless because she wants that part. She really, really wants that part, and she pushes herself to insane, morally ambiguous lengths in order to become that twisted, crazy monster. And there's just something so crazy about this movie. It's about pushing to extreme lengths, yet it's dabbled into one's mind breaking down, corrupting, going insane. And when the scares happen, they're actually really scary. Natalie Portman is amazing here. You can really feel the competition and the atmosphere. It is really fierce and strong. And the ending, it's the climax of the movie. It's full of twists and turns, and at the end, it's just such an insane climactic payoff. It really hits you in the heart. And at number 9, I guess the greatest punch in the heart, greatest stab in the heart there is, and it is 12 Years a Slave, Steve McQueen. And this is an epic about a black man, a man of skin color in the USA, when he is a free man, and all the way when he is a slave, and how he's transferred from household to household, and until at the end when he is freed from being a slave. And throughout the whole journey, we really see different stages, and we really see different kind of people he meet. There are actually black people who are douchebags in this movie, and they're actually good and kind of white people in this movie. So this movie doesn't just go, oh, white people suck, black people, they're great. But I guess the point of this movie is to show how cruel and how dark and how just unjust that the USA was during these times. And it really shows that really realistically and really powerfully, because we get some scenes here that really makes me want to look away. It's so just, I don't want to see it. It's too messed up. Okay, I just don't want to see it. And at the end of the movie, I teared up at the end of the movie because it's just so powerful. And I just it was just such a crazy journey in my opinion. Many amazing scenes in this movie, like the hanging scene and the boat scene, they're all fantastic. And then at number 8, a movie that I super duper love, an artsy hipster movie, and that is The Lighthouse by Robert Eggers. And The Lighthouse is a black and white movie shot in a very special aspect ratio about two men during the late 1890s stationed to guard a lighthouse for around 4 weeks. But these two men, they go absolutely insane, and in different ways. And it is a psychological thriller movie that is unlike any other, because elements of comedy and drama is in this movie as well. And it's blended so well and so smoothly. It is very impressive. The dialogues in this movie are golden. We have monologues here, one-liners that are, of course, written in old school sailor American English and performed masterfully by Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, underrated AF with their accents. And this is the smelliest, stinkiest movie I've seen in the decade. One of the craziest movie I've seen in the decade as well. It is straight up insane because towards the end of the movie it gets trippy, it gets crazy, nothing makes sense anymore, yet it's a thrill. There are so many amazing moments in this movie. The Neptune monologue, what, the scene where they drank turpentine and Willem Dafoe was like, monkey pump. The ending of the movie, there's just so many just crazy, just straight up insane moments in this movie. That's so artistic, that's so wild, and that's so psychologically challenging. and I just love every moment of it. It's so rewatchable of a movie as well. Okay, so I'm really tired right now. I really talked for a long time, but at number 7, such a tough pick, but I guess I have to go with Gravity by Alfonso Cuarón. I seen this movie in IMAX 3D, I think, and wow. This is the kind of movie that you really need to watch in IMAX, and even better in 3D, because this is a truly crazy, gigantic, titanic cinematic experience about getting lost in space, almost dying, falling into the void, falling into the abyss, almost freezing to death after a spaceship exploded, and somehow making it back to Earth in one piece, alive. And before watching this movie, I already don't like space. I just don't want to go to space because it's so scary. And after this movie, I am 100% sure that I'll never go to space. It's too scary for me. And I just have to say, this movie is maybe to some people it's not that scary, but to me, a guy who's originally afraid of space, it's really friggin' scary here. I mean, you could just fall into the void and the abyss at any given moment, and you'd friggin' die, and you'd be lost in space forever. But not only that, the cinematography, the 360-degree, no gravity, completely weightless spins, these long takes, they're insane. The musical score is so friggin' great. I actually listen to it sometimes, and it's just very impactful. I really like it. The artistic style, the editing, the sound editing and mixing here, they're all really fantastic. So much attention to detail, so artistic, so special and unique. And every single act of this movie really brings emotional heights and scary heights as well. I just really, really love this movie. It's so solid, it's so cohesive. There are multiple brilliant moments in this movie. It can be extremely suspenseful, and when chaos and mayhem are happening in space, you can't hear a single noise, and that just makes the experience even more horrifying and harrowing, because it's just things crashing into one another, breaking apart, and it's breathtaking. And there are even moments here where I nearly tear up, and because it's just so powerful, and it's so alone, it's so isolating, and it just leaves such a strong impression. But I guess a movie that impressed me way more is oh my, again, so hard to decide. I guess at number 6 I'm giving it to Gisangchung, Parasite by Bong Joon-ho. But honestly, number 5, 6, and 7 can switch places anytime, and this list will still make sense to me. But this movie impressed me so much. I went into this movie not knowing a single thing, and I left this movie saying, wow, that is a fucking great movie. And I don't do that very often, but this movie really blew my mind. It's so underrated, and I'm really happy that Bong Joon-ho is finally getting the praise that he deserves. But this is a movie about a poor family sort of infiltrating a rich family by scamming. And so the rich family has no idea that all of the people who are working for them now are actually one poor family who are, taking money from them. And it's really, really amazing. At first, it seems like a very smart comment on the lower class and the upper class struggles in South Korea, and also a very funny and witty comedy crime. But then when the audience thinks it's gonna go this way, Bong Joon-ho is gonna be like, nope, it's gonna go that way. And there are just so many twists and turns that just blows your mind. Suddenly this thing happens, and when you think, hey, this thing is over and we can be relieved now, suddenly that thing happens, and it just keeps on going and going and going. The stakes just keep on rising and rising and rising very gradually in a linear fashion up until the ending. And the ending is just so tragic. It's so... I keep on thinking about the ending of this movie after this movie ended, because it's just so tragic. and I guess messed up and unexpected and surprising. And it's just a very powerful movie. The cinematography is amazing. The shots here, they are slick, they're crisp, but at the same time, the composition of the shots are so artsy, so beautiful, and it has so much symbolism hidden. It is fantastic. The acting is great, the musical score, the editing, they're all fantastic, and I just really, really love this movie. Super replayable as well. And then we have the top five. And at number 5, it is another Christopher Nolan movie, The Dark Knight Rises. And yes, Christopher Nolan, the guy's a genius, okay? And I don't think this is as good as The Dark Knight, but it still lives up to the hype. Because this movie is such an epic, bold, unique, fresh, but also unafraid to explore messed up, dark stuffs. The Dark Knight Rises, where Batman is up against Bane. But then we also have Catwoman and the Riddler and other side characters here, but each one of them are so well utilized. And when I think about this movie, I think about so many different really iconic scenes. The bank robbery, the plane heist, the ending is insane. The scene where Christian Bale, Batman, had to climb up to the well. There's just so many friggin' amazing scenes in this movie. The trial, and each one of them are staged almost perfectly. The tension, the atmosphere, the suspense, it's constantly riveting. The movie keeps the audience constantly on the edge of their seats, yet this movie has depth. It's complicated, yet it's so well written, and it's so well edited and arranged. It is intriguing, it is engaging. And number 4, you know what? Number 4, 3, 2, 1 can really change places anytime, and I'm cool with that. But I really can't pick. I really can't arrange my top 4 movies of the decade. I really can't put them in order because each one of them are just so great in their own ways. But I guess I kind of have to put Alejandro González Iñárritu's Birdman at number 4, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. And Birdman is one of the first few movies that try the whole one take thing. Of course, the movie is not shot in one take, duh. But it's edited in a way it looks like it is in one take, and that just gives a very amazing cinematic natural feel to the movie. The cinematography is amazing in this movie, and then we get the performances. This movie is incredibly meta because this is about a guy who used to be this star who plays a superhero, but now he's not famous anymore. People are ignoring him, and he's in this play, and he hates himself because he's not as famous anymore, not as successful, and some other guy who's younger than him and who has less experience than him is teaching him how to act, which is bogus. And we really see his mind. We are really put into his shoes throughout the whole movie, and we really understand his feelings and what's going on, which is very powerful and really effective. The acting, Edward Norton, Emma Stone, of course Michael Keaton, they're all really fantastic. And then we get the score of the movie, the constantly intense, on the moment drums, which makes this movie more in the moment and more grounded. And it's just such a special cinematic experience. Again, Emmanuel Lubezki as the DP is really amazing, really fantastic, and it just comments on issues like fame and popularity really well. And at number 3, I guess I have to give it to Blade Runner 2049 by Denis Villeneuve. Yes, originally I didn't praise this movie all this much, but I was wrong because the more I think about this movie, the more I realize it's a friggin' masterpiece. It is a high budget blockbuster art film by Denis Villeneuve. It is a sequel to Blade Runner, yet it is way better than the original Blade Runner. And the original is amazing already, but this is mind blowing. This is eye widening because the visuals in this movie, every single frame is like a freaking painting here. It could be a wallpaper. It's so beautiful. The color schemes, they're fantastic. Again, Roger Deakins, oh my gosh. And then we have the plot. It's so powerful because this movie, it sort of expands on the Blade Runner universe. It doesn't keep on throwing back and, oh, nostalgia, but it actually expands in a really smart and intelligent way. And this movie deals with loneliness, isolation, but also the nature of humanity. What is it like to be human, to have consciousness, to have free will? And this movie actually runs so deep. And the visual effects are great, the acting is fantastic, and every single scene, every single shot is just nearly perfect. And I just love this movie to the core. It's super replayable and very stunning and very breathtaking. And I guess I have to move over to my number 2 spot. My second favorite movie of the decade, Whiplash, Damien Chazelle. I know it's crazy because originally I didn't give this movie a 10 out of 10, but now I'm thinking about it, this movie is definitely a 10 out of 10. And I guess I love this movie very personally because I feel like I relate to it. Because this movie is about a drummer who wants to be perfect at drumming. And he went into this jazz band with a very just angry, aggressive, insulting, straight up illegally, emotionally abusing people. The coach, played by J.K. Simmons, brilliantly and horrifyingly. And both the coach and the main character, they're against each other, but they're striving towards the same goal, in that they want the drummer, the main character, to be perfect. And the lengths that they go to be perfect is so extreme, so violent, so off the walls, off the rails. It's insane. It's straight up insane. And usually when movies try to be super extreme, it's either over the top and unrealistic, but this movie keeps itself grounded. It's realistic, but also at the same time, it's really friggin' intense. There are a few scenes here where I couldn't breathe because it's just so intense. It just keeps on going and going and going and going. And it's bloody, it's violent, and it's angry as fuck. And I really relate to this movie in that, I'm from an Asian school. I'm from Hong Kong, and school is pretty, the competition in school is pretty fierce. Everybody's trying to get good grades. Everybody's trying to be number one of the class. Everybody's trying to, get number one in this class and that class and in this subject and that subject, and the competition is fierce. It's extreme. People go to extreme lengths, and this movie just perfectly portrays that with immaculate editing, immaculate cinematography, camera movements, the crash pans here, brilliant. The editing here, smart, slick, fast-paced. The acting here, amazing. The musical style, the very intense, crazy jazz, I love it. And yeah, number 1 favorite movie of the decade, Inception, Christopher Nolan. It's not a surprise given how much I love this movie, but this movie is truly one for the ages. I'm running out of time. One for the ages, because this movie, I can't think of one single scene in this movie that feels slightly more bland and weak. Every single shot in this movie really serves its purpose to the fullest. And this movie is about dreaming, so already it's very interesting. But Christopher Nolan sort of embarks on that with such depth and complication. Dreams within dreams, different natures of dreams, the whole limbo concept. He makes it super interesting. And this movie could potentially become a novel series. It could become a TV show, and it will still struggle to run out of ideas because it is such an original and refreshing and unique movie. Huge cast ensemble, and everything about this movie. The music is probably my favorite movie score of all times, pretty much, because we get some really emotional tracks like Time, and then some guitars. The theme tune, they're fantastic. hypnotizing, and we get the very intense Mombasa suite, which is amazing. The editing is masterful, the cinematography is masterful, and the acting, the cast ensemble is amazing. It's fantastic. Everybody really acted really amazingly, and in every single scene and in every single act there's something special. No matter it is an avalanche, or it's a rotating hotel corridor and a fight going on. It is a car chase in the middle of a rainy New York with the train crashing onto the road, or all the buildings sort of crumbling down in limbo, and water just crashing, blasting into this place. I mean, every single scene and every single act are special and mind-blowing and crazy and absolutely brilliant in some ways. An entire city folding in half, everything exploding, the mirrors shattering. It's just so eye-widening, so breathtaking. Yet, when it comes to the plot, it's so damn intriguing, so interesting, and it reaches such emotional depths. And everybody has their little storylines, but yet they all converge and combine into something this great and this masterful and ambitious. I'm just in awe of how amazing this movie is, and I guess I'm just gonna leave it at that because I'm really tired right now. What's your favorite movie of the decade? Comments below, let me know. I'm gonna take a rest for a day. And yeah, subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching.